The media has a liberal bias, but it's not the bias you might really think of. You see, nobody sets out to be liberally biased in the news media. Just the same way as nobody sets out in the police force to be biased. It's more by the way they hire. You see, the news media tends to hire just liberal people. That's partly because of the people applying. It's mainly from the West and East Coast and from specific universities. And those universities are particularly liberal, especially on the East Coast. And so when they get into news media companies, you happen to have just liberal-minded people there. It's not that they specifically set out within a liberal agenda. It's more just the way they treat stories, the story selection, the way they editorialize the headlines and the descriptions, and choose the photos. Often, if you read articles, even from, notoriously liberal sites like the New York Times or BuzzFeed or Vice, a lot of the times the article itself isn't too biased, it's the way it's sold, right? It's the way it's packaged, and that the headline and the description and the photo that you see on Twitter or Facebook is slanted to appeal to a liberal demographic. Why is that? Well, because their demographic happens to be younger. Partly because that's who's on the internet, and partly that's because who advertisers want to appeal to. So because advertisers want to appeal to young people, and young people are assumed to be liberal, they have a tendency to slant their headlines and descriptions in a, liberal-oriented way. And so that's why you wind up with kind of a heavy-weighted liberal side. You got NBC, CBS, ABC, BuzzFeed, Vice, Fox, Attention, Mike, Washington Post. The list goes on, and at the top of my mind, in terms of just pure conservative outlets, I can think of Fox News, Daily Caller, which is Tucker Carlson's publication, The Daily Wire, which is Ben Shapiro's, maybe even Breitbart is in there, as I guess would be considered a conservative publication. But liberal bias is not the biggest bias news media organizations or companies have. What they have is a bias towards sensationalism. What do I mean by that? Well, they're biased towards any sort of headline that they can sensationalize, or that they think they can get clicks on. So, for instance, the Daily Caller or the Daily Wire or Breitbart might target specific stories that they think they can sensationalize to their audiences. Whereas BuzzFeed and Vice and Vox may target different stories that they think they can sensationalize to their audience. This particularly, a great example is Trump and how different media organizations approach Trump. And if Trump tweets something that they think they can sensationalize to their audience, they're going to grab that bit of info from his tweets or from his interview and editorialize it in the photo and the description that'll get an emotion going from their audience, from their reader, from their viewer. And so really what's happening is that publications aren't setting out to appeal to liberal audience or be liberal. They're setting out to get clicks and views. And the best way to do that is through sensational journalism. And that's driven because they want money. And to do sensational journalism, they kind of have to pick a demographic at the end of the day, liberal or conservative. And as I said earlier, because a lot of the demographics tend to be younger and that's what advertisers want, they sensationalize their news and they sensationalize it in a liberal way. But there's no cabal of, top-down direction saying, we are a liberal publication, we're out to get Trump, or, we oppose a Republican Congress, or we oppose Mitch McConnell, or John McCain, or whoever it may be. It's not like that. If anything, it's a little more insidious or murky in that sometimes the bias flows top down, and that the editor-in-chief may be liberal or the executive producer may be liberal, And the people that have gotten jobs or joined are interns, fellows, junior producers, junior writers, junior reporters. They want to do a good job. They want to get a pay raise. And so they want to write stories that appeal to their editor, appeal to their editor-in-chiefs. And so they're going to tailor their content even a little bit, even subliminally, to make the other people around them in their newsroom happy. And if those people in their newsroom happen to have a liberal slant, they're going to naturally write in a way that it appeases those people and helps get their stories and content and articles out. So yeah, the media definitely has a liberal bias on the whole, but even more so, it's biased towards sensationalism. Anyway, just a thought. Have a good night.